Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at weather for the next week to 10 days in today's video and sort of have a look at the big picture that's going on across the northern hemisphere. It's quite interesting how things are setting up just at the moment. Now, before I get on with that, just talk about the advertising. There's green keyword ads on my pages at gazweathervids.com. You right cursor over green keywords. They display ads when you click through the word. Go to advertise website, you support gazweathervids.com by doing that. So let's start off with the Arctic Oscillation and the North Atlantic Oscillation. The first thing to say about this is that these are indexes that are reflecting the state of the atmosphere. They are not driving anything. A lot of people talk about the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation, though they are drivers of weather, they're not. They are indexes that are reflecting the weather. Now, this is the observed and forecast chart for the Arctic Oscillation, and we can go right way back to the 1st of June with this. The black line is showing us where the Arctic Oscillation has been, the red line is showing us where the Arctic Oscillation is forecast to go. Through much of the summer, this is the 1st of June just here, much of the summer the Arctic Oscillation has been positive, which means we've had low pressure up over the North Pole, and that in turn means that we've had high pressure in the mid-latitudes. And this is a warm sort of setup for British Isles, particularly in summer. It's one of the reasons why we've had quite a hot summer, I think, that we've had high pressure in the mid-latitudes, low pressure has been over the pole. And we've kept that sort of setup going into the start of September. This is September the 1st here, but since we've got to the middle of September, the Arctic Oscillation has really plunged negative, got very, very negative with the Arctic Oscillation, with very negative just at the moment, which is where we are just then. So that's telling us that as we've gone into the second half of September, we've produced a lot of blocking up over the North Pole, big blocking areas of high pressure. When the Arctic Oscillation is negative, it means that you've got blocking over the pole. And that's what we've had. And we are forecast with this red line to keep a lot of blocking through to the start of October. This is the 1st of October just here. We're forecast to keep that Arctic Oscillation negative through the rest of September. So we are likely to be seeing blocking persist. Now, as we get on into the first half of October, I should say, we are likely to see the Arctic Oscillation then trying to lift up, which means the blocking is going to start to ease off probably as we get to the first half of October. But it's not lifting up with conviction. So it could be a slow old process to get rid of that blocking. Now, have a look at the North Atlantic Oscillation. It's the same idea. The black line is where we've been. The red line is where we're forecast to go. And again, the North Atlantic Oscillation has been positive through most of the summer. And that, just as with the Arctic Oscillation, means that for the Atlantic setup, we've had low pressure around Iceland. We've had high pressure somewhere through the mid-latitudes, from the Azores stretching into Europe. It's a warm sort of signal for summer, and if you get it in winter, it's a warm signal, or a mild signal for winter. The red line, though, has plunged again through the second half of September. We've gone very negative with the North Atlantic Oscillation through the second half of September, and we're really negative just at the moment. For the rest of September, we're forecast to stay negative with that North Atlantic Oscillation as well, before, again, we probably start to lift things up more towards neutral territory as we get into the start of October. But again, it's not lifting up with conviction. So the overall setup is negative sort of Arctic Oscillation, negative North Atlantic Oscillation, that's blocking in the Arctic, and it means that the westerlies are reduced through the Atlantic. Now, a lot of people will look at that and assume that it's got to be very cold for British Isles, but we're actually in a really warm phase just at the moment, or warmer than average, and the reason is where those blocking areas of high pressure are sitting, because this is an important lesson really as we go into the winter. A lot of people will be looking at the Arctic Oscillation, the North Atlantic Oscillation forecast during the winter. If they see things are going negative, or forecasts go negative, they will assume that means that it's going to get cold for the British Isles, but it doesn't guarantee anything, because despite the fact that the Arctic Oscillation and the North Atlantic Oscillation are in negative phases, because of the exact position of the blocking, it means we're on the warm side of the blocking. It's always important where that blocking is sitting. So let's have a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly charts, just to show why, despite the fact that we've got negative Arctic Oscillation conditions, why we're still quite warm. And we've got the ECMWF here on the left, the GFS is over on the right, 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is where weather is going on, high pressure, low pressure developing and being moved around by the jet stream running above. And what we've been seeing over the last few weeks is that we have had, over the last few days I should say, we have had blocking up over the pole. So yeah, we have had that blocking area of high pressure, but we've also been having an area of high pressure sitting to the north north and the east of Scandinavia, and that's indicated by these orange and red colours just here, and that's forecast to continue to go on for the next week, 10 days at least. So both the ECMWF and the GFS are indicating that. And because of the jet stream, I'll show you where the jet stream is running. The jet stream is running through the Atlantic, coming up against that blocking, and then rising north before plunging south on the north and east side of that blocking area of high pressure. Because of that, we've stayed on the warm side of the jet stream, and the cold air has really gone down into central and western parts of Russia. So that's where the cold air has been. The jet stream, because we're on the warm side of the jet stream, on the western side of that blocking, it means that we've stayed on the warm side of it, and that's the important lesson with this. Despite the fact that we have got blocking, it's just not in the right position to be producing cool weather for the British Isles. It's an important thing to keep in mind as we go through into the winter, that the Arctic oscillation and the North Atlantic oscillations can be negative. We can have blocking, but it doesn't guarantee that we're going to be seeing cold weather. So this is the ensemble for Moscow. Look how cold it is in Moscow just at the moment. The red line here is where we should be. This is the temperature ensemble from the GFS, while the red line is where we should be. Moscow is well below that red line. Really, really cold air for the time of year has gone down into central western parts of Russia. It's -5 at 850 HPA. That's almost cold enough for some snow to be falling in Moscow. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if they do get some wintry showers over there in the next few days. Probably won't lay, but I think they could well be seeing some flakes of snow in Moscow in the next, particularly over the weekend. Whereas this is the ensemble for London, and look at this, we're well above the red line. There's the red line there, that's where we should be at the time of year. All members of the ensemble are well above that red line, and forecast to stay above that red line going into the start of October as well. The temperature anomalies show this up. This is for the 26th to the 3rd of October. Western Europe is in the red colours, so that's where the warm air is. We're well above average, whereas central and eastern, and particularly eastern parts of Europe going in towards western Russia, that's where the cold air is. So we've got temperature anomalies across western parts of Russia of around 4 to 6 degrees below average, well below average. So yes, cold air has come down into the mid-latitudes. With this blocking, the theory is correct that the blocking is formed over the pole, pushed cold air down into mid-latitudes, but we're just on the warm side of the blocking area of high pressure, which means the cold air has come down in another part of the northern hemisphere, and we've stayed on the warm side of those block conditions. But it's very interesting what's going on in western and central parts of Russia, because particularly for central Russia, we're beginning to lay some very early snow cover, and that could be very, very important as we get through to the winter. I'll talk more about that in the winter video that I'm going to do on Sunday, a winter roundup video. It's very important to see how quickly the snow cover appears across Siberia, and it is starting to appear very, very early with this setup. So all this could feed back into quite interesting weather for us as we get to the winter. But anyway, let's just have a quick look at the generic chart before we go, and this is for next week. This is Wednesday the 2nd of October. We've got the high pressure still forecast there to be across Scandinavia and eastern parts of Europe. Remember, cold air is all on the northern eastern side of that high pressure, going down into western parts of Russia and eastern Europe. We're still on the warm side of it, so it's still bringing up this southerly wind with the low pressure out in the Atlantic, the high pressure over eastern Europe, bringing up that southerly wind. But this low pressure could be producing some showers or longer spells of rain through next week, and that's really how we go through the rest of next week, with the low pressure out in the west trying to bring rain in off the Atlantic, sometimes succeeding, but the high pressure to the east bringing up these southerly winds, keeping us on the warm side of the block. Eventually, as we get through to the end of next week and on into the weekend of the 5th and the 6th of October, the GFS model wants to break that high pressure down to the east and move it away towards the Black Sea. So then we start to bring the Atlantic through properly, and that will drop the temperatures down quite a lot. We're bringing a much cooler northwesterly wind then in then by the 6th of October. But that's quite speculative, and the thing with these blocking areas of high pressure is that models do break them down too quickly. So even going out to the 5th or 6th of October, we could still be on the warm side about blocking high pressure. The ECMWF shows high pressure in Scandinavia for the middle of next week, bringing up that warm southerly wind into the British Isles. There's weather fronts within that and low pressure trying to push in, so it's likely to be quite unsettled at times next week. There's showers or longer spells of rain, but the main thing is that we're staying on the warm side of the blocking area of high pressure. Eventually, as we get through to the end of next week and on into next weekend, the ECMWF wants to build the high pressure more over the British Isles actually, so we've got an area of high pressure extending there from central Russia over here through most of Europe in towards the British Isles and actually going down into the Azores. That's thousands of miles of high pressure. I'm not quite sure about that, but it does imply that if it occurs we're going to be seeing the weather settling down. But the main thing is that we're still on the warm side of that high pressure, so it'll still be warmer than average, albeit with a risk of increasing amounts of fog probably by night. And finally, the GEM shows the high pressure over Scandinavia through the middle of next week. Low pressure in the Atlantic, we're bringing up those warm southerly winds with the cold air on the eastern side of the high pressure. Moving through next week and on into next weekend, we maintain that southerly wind. So as we go out to day 10, which is Sunday the 6th of October, well, the idea is that still the high pressure is there through Central Europe. It has slipped a little bit from Scandinavia, but it's still across central east parts of Europe. The low pressure is still being blocked in the Atlantic, and we're still bringing up this warm southerly flow, albeit quite unsettled. So there's no sign really of the particular breakdown to that high pressure over Eastern Europe. It looks like it's going to be maintained. At the same time, it looks like we'll be maintaining the low pressure in the Atlantic. So it's basically a case of keeping the battle going with the southerly winds coming in and also weather fronts probably producing quite a bit of rain or showers next week. But it's going to be staying warm. We're going to be staying on the warm side of that, blocking high pressure, all the cold air going down into central and western parts of Russia, possibly into Eastern Europe as well. That's it for now. Hope you found the video interesting. It just explains a little bit what's going on in terms of the bigger picture. Hope you found it interesting. I haven't gone on too long. We'll probably have a look at the do a bit of an October look ahead tomorrow with the JMA mod, so come back for that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.